Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone. I am Nurhani Armizanoding, a first year student from 401. Today, I'm going to report the explanation of the types of written report. So number 5, we have the research report. So it is a common report that generates data either in a laboratory or a field. So a research report is a written document that presents the result of research, investigations, or experimentation. So what are the primary purpose of a research report? So first is to communicate the findings of a research study to others, usually in a clear and concise manner. Second, it provides an overview of the research question, methodology, results, and conclusions drawn from the investigation. So here are the 9 contents of a written report or a research report. First is the introduction. So this part of our research provides the reader a background of the report as well as the purpose of the report. For example, the introduction is the opening section of the report and it serves several purposes. We have first the background. So the introduction provides a brief background of the topic, including relevant context, history, and current state of a knowledge. Second, the purpose. So the purpose statement clearly defines the aim of the research, including the research question or hypothesis being investigated. Third, the scope. So the introduction outlines the scope of the report, including the specific focus, methodology, and limitations. And last, the significance. So the introductions highlights the significance of the research, including its potential impact, relevance, and potential applications. Second, the problem. So the problem includes essential inquiries and situations that led to the writing of the report. So the problem section is where you identify the issues, challenges, or concerns that led to the writing of the report. This section typically includes first, the problem statement. So a clear and concise statement that defines the problem or issue being addressed. Background of causes, an explanation of underlying causes or factors that contributed to the problem. Third, the consequences, a description of the consequences or effects of the problem, including any potential risk or impact. Next, we have the purpose, objectives, and scopes. So these sections tells the reader what the research intends to do. Also, the aims of the research as well as the limits to be covered are included in the part. So these 3 components work together to provide a clear direction and focus for the research. For example, the purpose. So the purpose statement defines the overall objectives of the research. It should be concise, specific, and focus on a particular issue or problem. The objectives. The objectives are the specific goals that the research aims to achieve. They should be measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound or SMART. Next is the scope. The scope defines the boundaries of the research. It outlines what is included and excluded from the study, as well as any limitations or constraints. Next, we have the review of literature. So this part of report includes related readings from different literature such as books, journals, articles, magazines, and encyclopedia. So the review of literature is a critical component of any research report. It provides an overview of existing research related to the topic, which includes a summary of key findings and conclusions from previous studies, identification of gaps in current knowledge or understanding, evaluation of methodologies and method used in previous studies, and discussion of implications for future research. Next, we have the materials, equipment, and facilities. So this includes the supplies, the resources, the facilities that were utilized in the report. For instance, the supplies are the materials, instruments, or tools used in the research process. We have the resources. It is the personnel, funding, or other support services used to conduct the research. Next, we have the facilities. These are the physical spaces or locations where the research was conducted, or the settings such as laboratories, libraries, or field sites. Next, content, we have the theory, methods, and procedures. So these tell the reader how the report writer conducted the research. These also include the process involved in the completion of the report. For instance, the theory is the underlying principles or concepts that guided the research. We have the methods. So the specific techniques or approaches used to collect and analyze data is the methods. Next, we have the procedure. So the procedure is the detailed steps taken to collect and analyze data, including any protocols or guidelines followed. So these elements provide a detailed account of how the research was conducted. It allowed the reader to understand the methodology used and evaluate the credibility of the findings. They also help to demonstrate the researcher's expertise and attention to detail. Next, we have the result, findings, and data. So this presents the outcome of the research with the use of tables, figures, and charts. So this section present the outcomes of the research, typically using the visual aids such as the use of tables. So the use of tables is to summarize or used to summarize the numerical data. We have the figures. So to the figures is to display graphs, charts, or diagrams. And we have the charts to illustrate patterns or trends in the data. So the purpose of this section is to provide a clear and concise presentation of the data collected during the research, and always remember to first summarize the main findings. Second, highlight any significant patterns, trends, or correlations. And last, provide an overview of the result in a clear and concise manner. Next, we have the discussion, conclusion, and recommendations. So this selection is the last part of the research report. This includes the conclusions based from the findings, and the recommendations are in turn based on the conclusions. So this part is the final section of the report where you try everything together and draw a conclusions based on your findings. For example, in discussion, you will interpret the results and findings in the relations to the research question or using the hypothesis. You can explain any limitations or potential biases in the study. You can discuss any implications or significance of the findings. You can also compare your results to previous research or existing knowledge in the field. Next, we have the conclusions. So in this section, you summarize the main findings and implications. You can also restate the research question or hypothesis and how it was answered. You can also provide a concise overview of what was learned from the study. And for the recommendations, based on your conclusion, you can suggest practical applications or solutions to the problem or issue or the study. You can also provide recommendations for future research or studies. You can also offer suggestions for policy changes, interpretations or interventions, or programs that could be implemented based on your findings. By presenting your findings in a clear and concise manner, you're able to communicate effectively. You can able to communicate your research effectively to your audience, whether it is academic, peers, practitioners, policymakers, or others. The last but not the least, we have the bibliography. So this is the list of all the sources and references used by the report writer in accomplishing the research report. So what should a bibliography include? A bibliography typically includes, for instance, we have the in-text citations. So these are the references to sources cited within the text or the report. It is usually in the form of author date citations. For instance, Smith 2020. Next, the full references. So these are detailed descriptions of each source, which includes author's name, publication date, title of the work, including the article, the book, the chapter, and etc. We have also the publication title, the journal, the conference, the proceeding, and etc. We also have the volume and issue numbers if it is applicable. We have also the page numbers if it also applicable, and we have the URL if offline. So why is a bibliography important? So a bibliography serves several purposes. It acknowledges the prior research. So that's the number one. By citing sources, you acknowledge the work and ideas of others, giving credit where credit is due. So again, the 9 content research report. First, the introduction. Second, the problem. Third, the purpose, objectives, and scopes. Fourth, the review of literature. Fifth, the materials, equipment, and facilities. Sixth, the theory, methods, and procedure. Seventh, the result, findings, and data. Eighth, the discussion, conclusion, and recommendations. And ninth, the last but not the least, the bibliography. And that's the end of my report.